Having me do this today. It's always great for me to have an opportunity to share my experience. I grew up in San Francisco, and I always like to frame my story to give a little background about my family history, because I feel like that's an important part of my experience. I grew up in a family where there's a lot of mental health challenges. My mom had spent time in a psych ward when she was pretty young, I think probably back in the 50s, but it was the kind of thing, I grew up in one of these families where this wasn't talked about much, and that played into my own experience with my mental health challenges. My mom was from Ireland and came from a big Irish Catholic family, and like a lot of her brothers and sisters had kids, or they themselves, or had kids with mental health challenges, or they themselves had challenges too. And I noticed this later, I guess, growing up. I had two sisters. One sister passed away when I was like 20. I was about 25, and she was 21. And she was diagnosed as schizophrenic when she was a teenager. And then she died at 21. And when that happened, we treated it as an accident, and it might have been an accident. It might have been suicide. We're not really sure. The treatments at that time, this was in like the early 80s. I remember being really frustrated with how my sister was treated. The medications didn't seem good at all, and the people that I talked to that were trying to work with her, I just didn't feel like they had a clue, I guess. So, that was real frustrating for at that time, and then tragic when my sister died like that, and really affected the family. But I was always somebody, like, I looked at my own situation as, I looked at myself as somebody that, I get anxious a little bit, I get depressed a little bit, but, that's not me. I'm not the guy that's going to have problems. And my story also is a lot about substance abuse. I ended up, I identify now as an alcoholic. I've been clean and sober for over 20 years, and an addict too. I identify mainly as an alcoholic because that's kind of how I started, I guess, my journey with substances. And I found recovery through 12-step recovery, but I did a lot of drugs too, so I don't, I didn't discriminate too much. And I think for a long time, I've looked at my substance use and my mental health challenges separately, and I feel like recently I've come to see them as together, as one thing that I need to address. I used to go see psychiatrists. My history is that for a long time I would get into crisis. I would see a psychiatrist, I might take some medication, things would get better, and then I would stop what I was doing that was helping me, and I might be good for a while, a year or two or whatever, and then something else would happen related to my mental health. But I used to see psychiatrists too, and I would go in and I wouldn't really be very honest with them about how I was drinking and using drugs. And consequently, I had a lot of different diagnoses. They weren't sure what was going on, and I think, I look at it now, and my alcohol and drug use really influenced that. After I got clean and sober, it felt like it was easier for me to say that I was an alcoholic or that I was an addict than that I had mental health challenges. I still kind of kept I looked at others that did have those issues as separate from me, and this went on for years. I mean, I've been sober for quite a while, and it's, in a lot of ways, yeah, I would still get into crisis, and still, it was like I wasn't able to, I don't know, face the truth about what was going on with me, and it's hard for me to, I mean, I was going to say hard for me to understand it. I'm not sure if I do understand it still, except in hindsight, it looks like, you know, I felt a lot more stigmatized around my mental health issues than around my alcohol and drug use. You know, it might be because of the way I found 12-step recovery. I found kind of a community that made what I was dealing with. It gave me a context, and it provided a solution. I wasn't finding that with my mental health until pretty recently. Let's see, I'd say what was a turning point for me around my mental health, in 2011, I lost a job that was really dear to me, and I got fired, and it was devastating to me. And I would say at least some of that was a result of my not addressing my mental health. It's kind of hard to describe a little bit, but I mean, I was doing things, I was acting in ways that ended up getting me fired, that if I'd been really, I think, working on what was going on with me, like I've learned to do now, make more of a commitment to that, I think I would have made better choices, you know. So, I mean, my drinking, my mental health challenges, I ended up going to jail, not for extended periods of time, but for just stupid things that would happen. I've been in emergency rooms and psych wards, and for some reason, yeah, maybe for the reasons I described, it was easier for me to address my my alcoholism and my addiction. But after 2011, I feel like I made more of a commitment to my mental health. You know, I guess in 12-step recovery, we would say like I've hit kind of a rock bottom, and that's what it felt to me. I mean, when I lost this job, I had the job for, gosh, 7 or 8 years, and I don't know, really identified with it heavily. And then when I lost it, it was like the rug was pulled out from under me, and you know, I became suicidal. And really, actually, what happened, I ended up in an outpatient program. I mean, I was probably a good candidate for being hospitalized, but I ended up in an outpatient program where they call it intensive outpatient. So I was going in like at least 3 times a week for like several hours each day. And I actually met somebody in that program that, and maybe it was because the 12-step model really resonated with me, but I met somebody in the program, you know, we were around the same age, had some, I don't know, similar circumstances, and I felt we became friends, and we were able to really support each other, and we're still friends to this day. And I feel like that friendship, that relationship, reminded me a lot of my experience in 12-step, where, you know, 12-step recovery is around one alcoholic, one addict helping another, and that was my experience in this group. Since I've been more recently, since I guess 2015, I've been working in peer recovery, which I feel like I kind of found through 12-step recovery, and also through my experience in this intensive outpatient group with the friend that I described. You know, we found ways to support each other, which I feel like is what peer recovery is about, what it's been about for me, and the idea that I'm not alone. I mean, I experienced that both with my alcoholism and with my mental health. You know, feeling like, wow, I guess nobody else feels this way, and I found that's not the case. I learned a lot from the experience of others, that recovery is possible. It gave me hope, and I feel like now I try to share that. And one reason I'm glad we can do this, I feel like part of what I'm trying to do with what I'm expressing today is that there is hope. That however bleak it might seem, I know for myself, I mean, I would tell myself all kinds of stories about, you know, how the world was going to end and what a negative future I had. And I've learned that, well, checking my reality with others, it helps a lot to stop some of that really negative thinking. I feel like I learned it first in 12-step recovery, and then in what we call peer recovery in the mental health movement. So I feel like I've made more of a commitment to my recovery over the last, meaning my mental health recovery over the last several years. And really kind of, I guess, learned to accept it, you know, in a way that has helped me a lot. Why, you know, again, why I struggled with that, I'm not sure. But I guess at some level it felt less stigmatizing for me to say, oh yeah, I'm an alcoholic, than to say that that I have mental health challenges. So I think that's my story. Well, I'd say I've been in and out of therapy for a long time. I'd say it's helped a lot on some level, in the sense that when I think of that kind of crisis period that I was in 2011, definitely having therapeutic support was helpful. I've also taken medications and had kind of mixed results, but have found some that have been useful for me. And then self-care, I feel like I've made more of a commitment to self-care over the last few years too, through improving my diet, improving my exercise program, and just finding ways to relax better. But it's an ongoing thing. I mean, this kind of recovery, you know, it's like with 12-step recovery, you know, you could say, well, I didn't have a drink, or I didn't take a drug today, so I was successful. You know, and I think that's our baseline in a way. And with mental health recovery and with self-care, it can be a little more vague, I think, you know. I mean, the results maybe aren't as tangible, but I really try to, I feel like I try to be consistent, because a lot of the time, by the time I'm sort of in distress, it means that I haven't been practicing these things regularly for a while. I mean, I think choice has played a significant role, meaning that I feel like once I felt like there was some hope for me, that I tried to move in the direction of making better choices. It doesn't mean that I always do still. I mean, sometimes I still make mistakes or make choices that I regret, or that I, you know, wish I had chosen more wisely. But I feel like, in a way, my life and the process of my recovery has been about finding the way to make better choices. That recovery is possible, and don't give up hope. Because I feel like I've been in that place where I felt hopeless. I felt like nothing was going to change. And what I learned, and what I would suggest, is really try to look for small things, like small victories, or just subtle changes. Because when I was really in a bad place, I couldn't even feel those. You know, it might be like if I really looked at myself, I might say, today I feel a little better than I did yesterday. But many times I couldn't see that. I couldn't. I feel like what recovery has meant to me is being able to be better aware too of really how I'm feeling. But for sure, I would like to say don't give up hope and to try to. It's an experiment. I feel like, and that we need to keep experimenting to see what's going to help. When I was younger, I used to do long distance running. I mean, I'm not able to do that anymore, but I used to tell myself, oh, well, if I can't run 3 miles, then I'm not going to do anything, But now it's like, well, if I can go for a walk, that's great, and I can see the benefits. So I feel like that, I really just want to encourage whoever is going through this to not give up hope.
Yeah, that's great. I used to do some long distance running too, and it's funny. I actually had the same marker where I was like, I can't do 3 miles. So it's just like
yeah. Well, I think we call it, I don't know, black and white thinking, or being a perfectionist. Where it's like, and I used to be like that around a lot of stuff. Where if I can't be like perfect or do this, then I just won't do anything.
Yeah.
And I've learned that it's part of being a human being, I guess. I don't know if our society, encourages us to sort of move in that direction of perfectionism. I feel like living here in the Bay Area, this might be a little off topic, but I just feel so competitive. And I feel like what mental health recovery is about is trying to back up a little bit, and I know I have. And learning to accept better who I am, and that who I am is fine, that who I am is great, in a lot of ways, that I have a lot to offer people and the world, even if it's not kind of, some image that I have from, television or the media or something.
Most popular question, but what is one fun fact people wouldn't know about you?
Well, I enjoy singing and dancing. So, and that's something, when I was drinking, I used to do stuff like in a drunken, fervor, and none of it was really very entertaining or satisfying. But I've learned that I enjoy those things, and I think a lot of people meeting me, probably wouldn't see that in me, but. Yeah.